thought, actually for the last couple of days, I've thought that I was going to talk to you guys about one particular thing. And I know that my journey that I'm sharing with you guys in summer today has changed. You know, at first I wanted to do kind of a production diary of the development of the space between us. And I wanted to talk to you guys about why the space between us has actually become more and more important to me, even as it's pushed further and further into the year. Now we're looking at shooting the winter of this year. And when projects get pushed, it's funny, I used to think that meant that they meant less to me, but now I'm actually starting to see that it's the opposite. If I actually want more time for development, or I want particular locations and I don't want to shoot guerrilla, and you know, we have to jump through all those hoops like a lot of traditional filmmakers have to jump through. You know, I'm willing to push something and push something and push something because it means that much to me. And I had wanted to talk to you guys today about one of the things that has always appealed to me about the space between us, and that is crossing those lines that create stereotypes about size and age and also sexuality. I know, and Nancy, if you're watching right now, you know how I feel about this. I think that my sexuality, my orientation, I don't know what it's PC to call right now, doesn't actually impact my life very much, except I think it, because I also happen to have been raised by two moms, and like every other child in the world, I separated from my parents in order to become an adult, and one of the things that resulted from that was me having a lot of very different social political views from my parents in some cases, in many cases. So I always think, like, because people ask, how does your sexuality impact your work? And I'm like, well, I mean, I can't change the fact that I don't like to wear this on my sleeve, and this is not what I lead with, but I am a lesbian, and so I do like to have lesbian characters in my work, but I just mean as part of a cast, because I kind of, you know, it's like I exist in the world, and relationships and who you're married to or who you're dating, but their sexuality isn't the plot point. That's just part of the character. And in developing the character, I may know every character's sexuality that's on cast, but that doesn't mean that those ever come up in the script at all. So one of the things that I had thought I wanted to talk to you, or the thing I thought I wanted to talk to you guys about today was, I went away from that. So I think one of the things that informs my everyday life because of my sexuality is that I'm very aware of the men in my life. I am not a separatist in any way, shape, or form. I do not believe that the future is female, or that the future government or the future world in general needs to be run by women to counterbalance the damage that men have done. I don't actually believe or herald any of those beliefs. I believe that men and women are quite literally created equal, that race has no bearing on the worth of a person, that sexuality has no bearing on the worth of a person, and gender has no bearing on the worth of a person. So I am very careful with my male friends, and I do tend to cultivate those friendships more because I feel like as a lesbian, I think there's a dog that wants to come in the door. Should I let her in? Let's see. Is there a dog that wants to join me? No? Hello? Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, you guys want to come in here? Are you sure? Hi. I think that a lot of times in our culture, especially men of a certain age, feel strangely uncomfortable around lesbians because either they, on some level, they feel intimidated or they feel awkward or they don't know how to interact with us. And, are we their buddy and they should just talk to us the way they would talk to another guy, or are we their competitor, or, whatever it is. And that just makes me really sad because I don't think this has to do with my sexuality. I think this actually has to do with kind of my, the way I see my own personal gender, is that I tend to identify and get along with men more easily, more smoothly than I do with women. And I'm not saying that I see myself as a man, I don't. I'm very proud to be a woman. But I seem to think, the way I approach things and the way I approach life, I seem to be more in line with my male friends. So I think that has influenced. In that way, one could argue my sexuality has influenced the way I interact with the world. And that is quite literally one of the only things that I see as being an influence. But again, I think people could argue that's gender. So tying into that, one of the things that really appeals to me, one of the heart things that really appeals to me about the space between us, is the fact that we are going to be eschewing the stereotypes about size and age and about what a lesbian looks like. Because in this day and age, that should be as offensive to you out there in the viewing public as it would be if I said to a heterosexual woman, "Oh, that's funny, you don't look straight because you have short hair," or you wear flannel shirts, or you wear jeans all the time. It's hard because I know that I'm a bit of a ragamuffin, and I do own several beautiful dresses and love myself in them, but on a day-to-day basis, when we're not at a red carpet premiere or something, I am usually in cargos, and my 18-year-old son, Maxwell, and I wear the exact same style of sneaker and actually the same style of pants, and, so I understand that I kind of have a stereotypical fashion sense, I guess. But I'm not a symbol of all that it is to be a lesbian. And the vast majority of the lesbians that I have known in my life don't look anything like me. Now, I understand that stereotypes exist for a reason because, fashions go in and out. Certainly in the 80s, there was a lot of women in the lesbian community that were in jeans and flannel and the short hair and, this kind of thing. And I get that. There's always going to be those kind of trends and stereotypes and fashion whatevers that go in and out. But, Brienne doesn't dress and present the way I do. And she wears makeup and she wears women's clothes and shops in the women's department. And I just don't think that what people wear should classify their sexuality or their gender or whatever it is. Do you want up your biscuit? I have a big lap, you guys. There's room for 2 dogs. Okay. So, all right, come on, Nuda. Come in. Now, you guys. So I wanted to talk about that and how I'm really looking forward to how A Space Between Us is going to really eschew some of these stereotypes by showing a relationship that crosses generations, also by breaking some stereotypes with exes, having one of the main female characters have an ex-husband who actually isn't a jerk, that actually is wonderful. Because sometimes marriages end and it's not the guy's fault, for gracious sake. And having the other woman have an ex who is a woman and who is incredibly different than the two lead women to show this huge variety and how they want out of the room. All right, you guys, go sit by the horn heater. Goodbye. Goodbye. Fancy. So that's my life, you guys, right there. So I wanted to talk about that and how excited I was about that. The other thing is that there's a little kiddo who is a preteen in the film, and I wanted to show a child that has an incredibly high IQ, but that sees the world a little bit differently. And that idea of, the precocious genius child, I'm like so tired of that. They come across as spoiled, entitled little brats, and I wanted to show an incredibly intelligent child that is actually also very in tune emotionally and empathetic with the people around him. And then continuing to break stereotypes, I wanted to show a young woman who's heterosexual but really driven in film. Because for whatever reason, a lot of stereotypes I've seen that have popped up lately are about like if young women are really driven in a career when they're, like teenagers, early teens, they're always portrayed as gay. And I'm like, why are we doing that? You can want a career and be a heterosexual woman. That is so backward. And I also wanted to show a variety of teen and young 20-something men who are poets, and the whole beat poetry, slam poetry movement, and how just because you're a poet and you're a man doesn't mean that you're gay. And it also doesn't mean that you have to be only talking about sexual abuse or drugs or gangs, or there are a lot of things that young men poets can talk about powerfully. So all of those stereotypes are just being broken open by the space between us, and not in a preachy soapboxy way, but just in the existence of those characters. And you guys know that's what I like to do. I like the existence of my characters to be the message, the fact that they're even there. And all of this was going to tie into something that happened on social media recently, where an actor that we have worked with many times that I'm known to really love, which if I've worked with someone over and over again, I consider them kind of in my personal troupe. Now that doesn't mean I own them. This isn't old Hollywood, and also that's disgusting. But what it means is that they inspire me. They are a little bit of the muse that drives me. And this actor had gone and done a professional photo shoot, and the people that did the photo shoot posted a photo, and I saw the photo, and I did a double take on this photo because it was being posted by the actor, but I'm like, who is this? Who is this in this photo? Because this is not the person that I have filmed 100 million times. This is a beautiful person, but it is a different person than the person I have photographed and filmed 100 million times. The person in the photo was so airbrushed and so photoshopped. And there were easily 100 engagements with this post talking about, you're so beautiful, this is amazing, this is phenomenal, excellent work by everyone. There was even one comment that said, hey, this is what you look like every day. And I couldn't even post, because I was like, this perspective is totally skewed. These eyes are completely symmetrical. This is not you. You're so beautiful. You're so powerful. But this is a piece of art that was created with you as the base. And I felt like I couldn't say that because, of course, what am I then saying? If there's like 100 people saying, this is a gorgeous, incredible photograph, if I'm saying, you're so much more beautiful when you first walk on set, before you've done anything, than what I see in this picture, that you are unrecognizable to me in this picture, that I did not know this was you. What does that say? And I felt like only pain can come of this. I can only offend the very large team that went into creating the photo. I'm most likely going to offend this actor But the friend in me, just, a part of me just, my heart just fell. And I thought, this is how it happens, isn't it? And this is why I do have to, thank you, I do have to continue to make film, because in books I can create all kinds of characters, but only in film can I show you real people and refuse to airbrush them and refuse to film them only from flattering angles. What is a flattering angle? Because then when we see a photo of ourselves that isn't one of these flattering angles, we're like mortified, right? And I want to be able to do what I can to have people not be mortified. So that's what I wanted to talk with you guys about today. And then something else happened. And someone reached out to me and Brianne and said, you know, you recently painted me in a negative light, you know, publicly. And I went back, I'm like, wow, that does actually not sound like the kind of thing that I do. Like in our daily vlog, when we did a daily vlog in 2017, if there was an issue we were faced with, I would not bring it into the vlog until 3 separate people had done it. You know, like folks acting a certain way on set, or mailing to the wrong email address or something like that. Until it had happened 3 times, we saw it as just something, a standalone, you know, nothing that needed to be addressed. So I went back to the particular post and then to my previous vlog and tried to find what it was that had so greatly offended this person, and that had somehow I had painted them in a negative light. And while I'm looking for the post, as I'm scrolling through my own feed, I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I live with transparency. My social medias are public. I do not, and you guys know one of the major posts where I do not name names. I do not allude to names. I don't say these generalized people, I don't even say things like this studio, this agency. And I thought, wow, in this world of social media, where people tag people, where people call people out, where people expose folks that have harassed them or not treated them well or not paid them or whatever by name, without sharing both sides of the story, without doing anything, what in the world had I done? And I got to the post. And by the time I got to the post, I was like, why should I even review this? I'm certainly not going to take it down, because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I had not called anyone out. I hadn't even mentioned the association between this person and the incident I was talking about. Like, okay, so this person is coming from a place of either guilt or irresponsibility or whatever it was. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's really intense. Because I think for other people, if you say, I live transparently, they think that living transparency means airing all of your private business to everyone and airing all of someone else's private business to someone. And I'm going back over this post going, oh my gosh, I could have said and done and quoted and screen captured so many things, and I did nothing. And it was so cool because the people posting on the thread and the folks, Abby, you were one of them, Abigail, who reached out to me afterward, they were like, Oh, are you talking about this? We had to face this with our house when we bought it. Oh, were you talking about this? We had to face this when we moved into our new office. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. People were like offering up home remedies for getting rid of mildew and home remedies for if you run out of drywall and like all of these kind of things. And I'm like, no one took this in the way I was being accused of taking it because it wasn't there. And I realized, wow, I can say I live transparently, but we all come from our own perspective. We all live our life from our own perspective. We all have our own POV. And because we all have our own point of views, sometimes people are going to get hurt. Whether or not we intend for them to get hurt, it's the old adage, you can't please all the people all the time. You can't never hurt anyone. It's impossible. But I always try to say, when I'm feeling hurt, when someone has done something that hurts me, are they really trying to hurt me, or is this them? Is this who they are? If I open my heart up to someone and they really disappoint me and shock me, are they trying to physically hurt me, or is this just them? This is how they look at the world. They're cynical or distrusting, or they've been hurt themselves in the past, or whatever it is. And just as I made the decision that I was going to change my vlog today and talk about that instead, I realized it's actually all the same thing. It's all about breaking these stereotypes and seeing people as they really are and embracing people as they really are. Now, I know that I have to sometimes shut the door on certain relationships. I can't have them in my life because folks don't ultimately mesh with who I am, and it becomes toxic. But I can value them as a human being, which is why I don't tag people and I don't allude to people. I talk about my life. And it's not that I'm vague looking. It's that I want to be able to share my experience without trampling on someone else's experience. And that is a difficult tightrope to walk. But I'm really glad that I continue to attempt to walk it. So anyway, Noodle and Biscuit and I are going to say bye until next rotation. And I hope you guys are enjoying summer today. Bye.